Item 17 is the map data report. Ms. Newcomb.
You're smiling a lot tonight. Is that good news?
There is. Well, it's really too early to tell, but what we don't want to have happen is wait until September of next year when we get our results. And so what we've really tried to do this year is to constantly look at data, whether that be through unit assessments that teachers are given, or for this piece of data, this is a norm reference. So basically what that means is, if you remember in school, that bell-shaped curve, and you cut it down the middle, and basically it's like this is half of the kids and the other half of the kids. And so you look at this norm, it means any student across the nation that took the MAP test, okay, at this time, that's the middle, that's the average. And so what we want is, we want our written number to be higher than the average. So what I did for you to make it a little bit easier, since you're looking at all the 7 schools, not the high school because they don't use MAP, if it is colored green, that shows you that we were above the norm average, so that's good. If it is red, you'll see that that means that we were below the norm average. So that's kind of at a glance look that I think it helps you just really quick. Then you can start to study it a little bit more, and you can actually look at the numbers to see how much above, how much below, okay? As you get to probably 5th up, one point is significant, because in kindergarten, you know, between the beginning of the assessment in the spring, in August, September, when you take it to the winter, I think it's about 10.5 points is what you would expect a kindergarten to grow. They have a higher growth rate than a middle school student, whereas that's more like close to 2 points. So you have to kind of keep that in mind, and it's not equal at the different grade levels, okay? So this is for reading for all the schools. Do you have any questions on this first table before I move to the second one? Okay, the second table then this is just our estimation, because we have to have something to gauge our numbers by, a goal. And so what we want is, we want our kids to be above the 69th percentile or higher. We feel like that is a very, very solid number, that if a child is at that 69th percentile or higher, we know that they are mastering the content, and that we feel certain that they're going to score proficient or distinguished, and mastered all that content and be ready to move to the next grade level. Now, that's our number, because MAP does not give you a proficiency scale at this point, because the way it's set up, kids have all year to grow, and when we take this test again in March, I think March 3rd is when the window opens, then we'll get a proficiency estimation from MAP and still have time before K-Prep to hit it again with interventions, okay? So what you'll see in parentheses is each school's goal. So I'm going to use Calvary for example. Their delivery target by the state is that they need 69.5% of their kids at proficiency in reading. That's their target, okay, their goal. And you can see in mid-year we're you know, at 40% if we're gauging at that 69th percentile or higher. And this, again, is kind of just our estimations, our predictions. It's not anything in stone. It's just us looking at data and making a prediction. Yes?
That's not a state goal.
This 69.5 is a state goal. These numbers are just our best guess to say where are we at now, so we know how much further we need to go. Okay?
Between now and the end of the school year. And thankfully, we don't have to worry about weather like we did in the past. Now, it's the last, we have a window, the
Last 14
14
days.
of school.
And before, the test would range over 2 weeks. Now it's 5 days and 2 makeup days.
Are those numbers pretty normal then, for this time of the year?
Um,
On the past, or is this,
I would like to see, I would like to see those closer to, 50. I'm just going to answer the question honestly. But I think that we're well on our way. I think in the 40s, we're right on target. Some of those numbers that, are smaller, I can tell you that principals are alarmed by those, and before school had even started back, they were on the phone talking to teachers and changing plans around.
right, so then, if you're looking at that, I guess that's 11 in elementary school,
Yes, sir.
they're at a 10.
For fifth grade, 10% of their kids in the fifth grade have scored at the 69th percentile or higher in reading. That's a concern.
Yeah.
And they have already kind of changed the game plan at Lebanon Elementary with what they were doing in their fourth and fifth grade.
If you want to, go ahead and share that.
Okay, I can tell you that their fourth and fifth grade, they tried something different. And I think that as administrators and leaders, we want teachers to come up with plans and to try. They decided it wasn't working. They each were taking a content area. For example, if I specialized in math, I would teach 3 classes of math. Then someone else might do the reading, and someone else did the science. So the kids were transitioning a lot. They felt like they were losing instructional minutes. They felt like that they did not have the capability or time to get them on campus learning the way that they wanted to intervene. So they've already changed the game plan and they went back to self-contained. Okay. All right, so then the next table, and then we'll move to math. This one is just basically looking at numbers because, Mr. Miles, I did this one for you, okay? Because you said that you wanted in the district improvement plans and school improvement plans for us to be looking at the number of students that are novice, okay? Again, this is, I want to kind of say Tammy's prediction, but it's not. We've looked at other school districts that have given the map over several years and kind of gauged it by what they're doing. Also, Compass Learning, they've worked with many school districts, and that's kind of what they gauged as that bottom tier that we need to be looking at for novice. So, if a child was in the 24th percentile or lower, we're going to say we're guessing that's in that novice range. We're not saying that they're novice, but that's the prediction. These are the actual numbers. So 5 students at Calvary, 10 at Glasscock, 21 at West Marion, 24 at Lebanon Elementary School in first grade. Actual counts. Yes, I know. If you take and count them up, then you can see that especially when you get to our testing, because if you look at 3rd, 4th, and 5th, that is your testing grades, and we said we want no novice. So we have work to do.
Oh, yeah, and what bothers you as you look at the higher grade, like the 5th grade, it even looks worse. You would think maybe with all the things we throw out there to help, that it would get better, but.
Well, and you've got to keep in mind that with the Common Core, you're still addressing gaps because they did not start in kindergarten with the Common Core. So the game plan changed on them. So teachers and students are having to kind of make up for stuff that they now would have in first grade that our 5th graders may not have had. So they kind of have to constantly go back. And you're going to see those numbers increase as you go up. If you go to the next page, Pam, it will show middle school. So you can see your your numbers increase in that 0 to 24 range, when you get to middle school. And then what I decided to do, because, that's looking at percentiles. The whole reason that Marion County, that the principals decided that they wanted to move to MAP instead of that ThinkLink, that Discovery Ed that you used to see that data on, is because of the new state system talks about student growth. No matter where you get them, you want to make sure that they grow at least a year's growth for a year's instruction. And if they're behind, you've got to grow them more than a year, okay? So what I decided to do was to look at the number of RIP points that each grade level would grow between the first test and the second test. Okay, so first graders, they should grow about 10.4 points. You can see that as a district, we did not grow as much as the average for the rest of the nation. We were 2 RIP points below. But the rest we look pretty good. You'll also see specific grade levels and schools and the breakdown, and the principals have this data. They're using it with their teachers, and they're coming up with plans of action. Any questions? That's kind of all of reading. And then I want to remind you that as they take this, the Compass Learning, that as soon as I'm a student and I take that assessment, then it gives me that individual learning pathway on the computer that I can start to practice on. We need to do a better job, I think, as a district of communicating to parents exactly how do we log on. We need to probably set up some camps or in our parent-teacher conferences, make sure that we address that and make sure that our parents and our students know how to log on, because that's a 24/7. If they have technology at home, or they can go to a location that has technology, they can log in. That's a way we can extend the school day without having them here. Okay, I'm going to move on to math. You can see math.
Can they pull that up on iPhones?
As long as it doesn't have Flash. They said some of the older versions of the activities started out with Flash. So I think that Kurt Mattingly said there's an app you can download, and he's shown teachers how to do that. But the Odyssey Compass Learning organization, they don't advertise that because they're not going to say, yes, you can use an iPad or an iPhone when it's not 100% works all the time. But many teachers are using it. Yeah.
So that's the reason I asked.
Yeah, many teachers are using it with the iPads, and they said they've not ran into too many activities that won't work. Okay, here's the math data, and it's the exact same tables, but it's just with math. Okay. You can see a little bit more red on this one. You can see where we as a district in that first column compare to the national norm, and then each school. And then I'll just kind of let you look at it, and if you have questions, since it's the same. Then we go to the second table. And this is the,
Ms. Newcomb,
yes.
I have a question about, it's a general type of question. Why do you think we have difficulty with math? I mean, what's, in your professional opinion, to be some of the reasons?
Well, I think that math is sequential, and so just you ask for my personal opinion. I think that it's vital. I know that Ms. Slosher and I worked on a committee together back, 9 years ago, and we examined data that said if a child does not exit elementary, at a proficient level, when you looked at their score for middle school and high, they never got above novice. So again, it goes back to the same as the literacy, your numeracy with math. It's vital that we address that early. I think that the Singapore, the Math and Focus books that they have really focuses on problem solving and numeracy. But again, I think with the shift to the Common Core, that rigor raised so much, and some of the concepts developmentally, some children may not be developmentally ready for some of those abstract concepts. So as teachers, we have to find concrete ways, hands-on ways to teach that skill so that it's not just memorizing, they're understanding how do you make a 5, and knowing they can make a 5 with 2 and 3 or 4 and 1 or 5 and 0 or just those numeracy skills.
Well, I'm just looking at this here, the mean RIT, that is statewide?
That is national.
National, okay.
So it's not just Kentucky.
Right, okay.
I know you explained it, on that point difference, say that 185 is and the 184, how significant is that point there?
I'm going to tell you that in the higher you go, the more significant that point is. Because a point here in the 7th and 8th grade is significant because you only grow on average 2 points from spring to winter. However, in 1st grade, you're going to grow 10.5 points on average. So the higher you go, the more significant a point is. So I'm more alarmed with, you can see that we're on close to average. It's red because it was below. It's below is below, whether it's a 1/10 of a point or 2 points. But probably when I look at 4th grade, that's a concern. 4th grade is the biggie. 5th grade, those would be in 6th grade there.
I think my observation is, if that's the national means there, I would think other school districts across the nation would have the same issues we are. So I'm wondering why we're having these issues and other districts aren't having this nationwide.
Well, you can look at it this way. Half of them are, because if it's norm reference, the way I think about it is it splits you in half. Half of you are going to be below and half of you are going to be above. So, I think that lots of school districts struggle with math and knowing the right interventions to put in place. We have work to do, and I'm excited about, we'll be giving our first common assessment in elementary for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, where teachers work together and they developed an assessment that is aligned to the standards. We're going to do that at the end of January. That will kind of give us a gauge of, have they mastered that standard, have they not? Our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in middle school math, we gave the first common assessment. Some of them were doing it this week. I think St. Charles was finishing some up. Lebanon Middle gave theirs right before the winter break. So I'll have that data once they finish that up and they're sending that to me. Then that way we have a comparison, because what I hate to get on math, but any statistician says you look at least 3 sources of data. So what you would want to look at, a norm reference, you'd want to look at one that's based on the standards, like a criterion reference, and then the teacher knows those kids. They have them every single day. They know what they can do or not do that maybe they have difficulty performing in a written format on a test. So that's another form of data. So you want to look at least 3 sources of data to know what's the right path to address with that problem that student is having. But what it gets down to, Mr. Cecil, is one child at a time, knowing what does that student struggle with, what is the skill, who's going to address it, who's going to work with that child, having that system in place, and just moving forward.
So these numbers are for, well, this winter, so when will be the next time we will get different numbers?
March the
March,
3rd,
okay.
you'll get, well, I take that back. It'll be probably your first April board meeting, because they have a 3-week window to take the test. And then that's gonna hit, I think, spring break, isn't it? First week of April. So your board meeting would be that second week of April. You'll have MAP, norm reference data, again, that second week of April. And then we'll know what their prediction is for proficiency.
Like, I'm gonna use Calvary Elementary there, second grade, 25. You
Oh,
think
okay.
it's possible to grow that child how close to 69.5?
I have to look at the next table to kind of let you know how many, can I look at that? Second grade Calvary, you can stop him. Second grade Calvary, see, they have a huge chunk of kids right here in this 25 to 68. They only have 8 kids novice. Absolutely, they absolutely.
Do you think it can happen?
Yes, absolutely. I think that when you look at this, if I saw this number here that was really large, then I would be because to me, if I have a child in the 60th percentile, that's easier to move than I have a child at the 3rd percentile. So see, when you see 33 students in that range, and I'd want to even break it down a little bit more if I was the principal, I'd want to look at between the 50th to the 68th percentile, and that would tell me even more too. Okay, so are we ready to look at growth? Okay, so if you scroll to the growth, which is this last one, this lets you see that, okay, even though if you looked at your middle schools, I think that our middle schools should be very proud that if you look back at their RIT score, what's the average? The middle school. All right, you have at Lebanon Middle School, their math for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade was below the average, okay, the norm. But when you look at their growth, you can see that it's expected that they would only grow 3 points. They grew at a faster rate. That's positive because you want to see that. That shows that in order for them to catch up, they have to grow faster. And you can see that all of our middle school math is working in that direction. So that's exciting to see. Any other questions? I know I throw a lot of numbers at you and a lot of data there.